guys, welcome to the Hustle and Flow podcast. I'm Shaun, the Hustle.
I'm Les, the Flow.
Let's go.
Right, Shaun, new week, new topic. I think you got one for us.
I do. My turn this week to choose a topic. So this week's topic, I'd like to talk about the idea and the notions of having a creed.
Having a creed? Okay.
So we've talked about this before, I think.
Yep.
Not for a while though. So I'm interested to see what conversation we have today around that.
Yeah, cool.
And if things have changed for either of us in this conversation. So yeah, that's what I want to talk about.
So what brought that up? Since, like you said, we haven't talked about it in quite some time. And I do remember when we did. Must have been a few years ago, I think, at least.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So I'm not really sure if there's one specific thing that's brought it up for me to think about. But I was just thinking the last couple of days, I'm like, I think a lot of people just run around existing, operating without really thinking about what they're doing.
Yep.
And I think that's especially apparent right now. What's the date today? 11th of March, and there's all this craziness happening with coronavirus and people getting really scared and doing silly things like stocking up on toilet paper and getting into fights over it.
Yeah.
And it's just like people are just running around like their heads are going to get chopped off. They haven't been chopped off. And I'm like, I wonder if people actually had a code that they live by.
Yeah.
Would things be different? And
Sure.
it got me thinking, do people actually think about that outside of people like us? Where, like, if you have a code, if you have a creed that you live by, because I do have a creed that I live by,
Yeah.
that I came up with a couple of years ago. And, you know, since I put that into place for myself, and do my best to live by it, things have definitely gotten better, and also makes my decisions much easier. It makes how I approach things a lot simpler for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was just thought it'd be a cool topic to talk about today, and for people listening, that if you've never actually thought about it, might be worth considering.
Yeah, totally.
Having a creed or working out a creed for yourself.
And I think, firstly, it is a great topic to talk about, and very poignant, like you said, in times like this. But for the audience, maybe you can give everyone your own definition of what a creed, personal creed, means to you.
Yep. So a creed is essentially a set of beliefs or a set of aims that you have for yourself, and which you adhere to, and that you choose to adhere to, and that you do your best to live by. That's a creed.
Yeah.
So there's famous creeds like what's that? Like the Apostles' Creed, and
Apollo Creed.
yeah, Apollo Creed. He's a famous creed, but there are creeds out there, and there's this notion as well that a creed has a religious undertone to it.
Yeah.
And the famous ones do, for sure. But what I'm talking about is just a set of beliefs that you choose for yourself, period. Doesn't have to be religious. Just be beliefs that you actually believe in and that you want to live by.
Yeah.
And I guess those beliefs are born out of your values and the things that you've been taught. And what I think is important when it comes to having your own creed is working out what your beliefs actually are, because it's very easy to just operate and walk through life doing things without actually thinking about why we're doing them.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually putting together your own creed is a good way to question your beliefs, work out what they actually are, and if they're the ones that you want to hold going forward.
Yeah. And bring clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like you said, it's the behavior on the back of certain crises, and I recently wrote about this on my blog. It's reactionary. It's more of a knee-jerk reaction, or maybe it's even coupled with a little bit of ignorance mixed in. So what I sort of mean by that is you take the words of a media personality.
Mm-hmm.
The words may be quite lazy, they may be ill-informed, they may be off the cuff, and they may have an intention for proliferation of gossip and attention, but we grasp onto that and we react by going crazy and stocking up on toilet paper to assist us through an apocalyptic period, which is really silly if you think about it, because you can wash your ass with water, but you can't really eat toilet paper. Well, I guess you could if you really wanted to, but I'd be stocking up on food. Personally. But I guess what that is saying is that, like you were saying, it's a automatic response. It's not a thought out, reflective action, that we are taking. And it's difficult, I understand, because there's a lot of noise out there, and it attracts a lot of attention, and it's hard to bring a level of focus and clarity to what it is that we as individuals should be or want to be, or how we want to be behaving in situations like this, and any situation for that matter. So it's more of a let's wait, and whatever situation arises, we're going to react to it, rather than proactively knowing what direction we're walking into and how we want to uphold ourselves on the back of, values, principles, creed.
And I think that's you said a word there which is really important, which is like how you want to uphold yourself. And that's what a creed helps you do. It's how you want to show up in life, what type of person you want to be, and how you want to treat others. That's essentially like what a creed lets you do. It's how you're going to show up and how you're going to operate.
Totally.
And the beliefs and values that you're going to apply to decisions that you have to make.
Totally.
And if you have certain beliefs that are well thought out for yourself, that are actually considered, right, your actions are likely going to be far different to if you've never thought about it and just respond on the back of what a lot of times is just fear that's thrust upon you, and fear that you allow yourself to feel and be driven by.
And I think it's important to sort of highlight that point there in terms of well thought out and reflective. Like, me personally, I don't feel like a creed is something that we can simply write up and do in a span of 15 minutes or so. It's just not something, unless you have a very acute level of clarity as to who you are and what you're about and how you want to present yourself to the world, which again in most circumstances we don't give ourselves the time to think about that stuff. So we just don't have that level of clarity or self-awareness, right? So it takes time, and it evolves over time as well as you evolve, right? So I think it's important to give examples of what, I guess, a creed might look like, and if you want to share like what
I'm happy to share mine. So mine's really simple. My creed has like 4 principles, I'd call them, right? So the first one for me is do the right thing. It's very simple. Just do the right thing. And that means actually consciously thinking about that in situations. Like when you're confronted with options and you can make, and you're able to make a choice about what you do, what you say, how you treat people. Are you going to do the right thing or the wrong thing? And then you're always going to have people that are like, well, how do you know if it's the right thing or the wrong thing? And all I say to that is, man, you know what the right thing is. Like you do. You get that feeling in your gut when something's not right, when it's wrong, and we all have that, right? So it's just simple, man. Do the right thing. The second one for me is make every minute count. And I mean that quite literally. So I think I used to essentially waste a lot of my time prior to coming up with that principle for myself and valuing it, right? And it's making every minute count isn't just about being productive all the time. It's about being where my feet are and appreciating that time is limited because it is, and that it's valuable because it is, and that how you choose to spend your time really is really like it's gonna determine how your life plays out and the experience you have here. So making every minute count, and that's even like man, I love being like lying down in bed. I love it, but I'm actually conscious about it. I'm like, cool, this feels nice. It's nice and comfy. It's warm. I enjoy this. I feel safe. It's nice, you know? So it's not all about productivity.
Yeah.
But then when I'm doing something as well, I'm like, I do my best to not waste my time or doing things. Like if I can do something in a shorter period, I'll try to do that now. Whereas before I was just kind of like, things just take as long as they take. Yeah. And that's not the case for me anymore because I have this principle in place as part of my creed, right? So that's my second one, make every minute count. The third one for me is learning or earning. So in those, how I approach things now and where I choose to spend my time primarily, I want to be learning something or I want to be earning, right? And that's not just earning money. Definitely earning money is a large part of that earning aspect, but it's like I want to be learning or earning. Yeah. So when I spend my time, I, listening to podcasts. When I drive a lot. I'm on the road a lot, right? So I try to learn while I'm on the road by listening to podcasts. Yeah. I read lots of articles. I study people that I find successful and that have done the things that I want to do in my life, so I can learn how to do those. And then when I put things into play and I work, right, and I take steps towards growing my business or doing the actual work, I think about how that is helping me to earn, right? So always be learning or earning. Yeah. And then my fourth principle is just blessings over bullshit, and it's all about gratitude and just being mindful that there are far more blessings in this world than there is bullshit if we choose to look at it that way. And it reminds me to have that perspective and to always be grateful instead of getting caught in that spiral of like, this is shit, that's shit. Yeah. Right? And counting those blessings. So, and always making sure that always making sure that I am more mindful of the blessings that I receive and the blessing that I can be to people over the bullshit that I might think is around or like being shit for people. Yeah. Because we can be, right? Yep. For sure. And that's part of the, we were talking earlier about how your creed helps to dictate how you're going to show up. Yep. Right? So I don't want to show up and be shit for people. Yep. I want to be a blessing for people. That's important to me. So, yeah, man, always counting blessings over bullshit and making sure that you're being a blessing instead of being shit. That's my fourth one. Yeah. So that's my creed. There's four things. So it's do the right thing, make every minute count, be learning or earning, and blessings over bullshit. And everything I do essentially falls under one of those four categories for me. Yeah. Like everything. And it took me a while to come up with that. It didn't take me super long, to be honest. Like I just thought about what's important to me and what's some principles that I can use and keep at the front of mind for me that I would like to live my life by, and that I think I'd be able to carve out a good life for myself and those around me. So, and I just wrote them down. I've printed them out. They sit on top of my desk, and I look at them every morning. It's super simple, and because I've been looking at it for so long, and I'd made the distinct choice to try and operate by those principles, it's how I operate now. Like it's just repetition, right? Yeah. Like repetition. I had it on my phone lock screen for like, I think a year and a half or something like that. So every time I unlocked my screen and there was no notification, I would see that. And like it's one of those things as well. Your creed, it's not just something you write and put away. You really got to pay attention to it, call yourself up, or like reflect if you're actually doing it or not. And then when you're not, pull yourself up on the fact that you're not. Yeah. And what are you going to do about that? Yeah. And then the repetition, man. Like any sort of training, like the repetition's where it's at. The repetition is how it gets into your subconscious. The repetition is what makes it a habit and a pattern. And those principles are like ways that I want to live by habitually.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to sort of call out that they're not necessarily something that you didn't innately believe in the first place. So that whole training aspect, like, yes, it's obviously very practical, but I think that there is like an element of just simply aligning what you truly believe with how you act. And that's all it was. Do you know what I mean?
And it's like a distillation of that.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, it was important when I came up with mine. I was like, what's important to me?
Yeah.
Like, what is important to me?
Yeah.
How do I want to show up in the world? And how do I want people to receive me?
Yeah.
Right? Because that's in my control.
Yeah.
Mostly.
That's right.
So I'm like, what person do I want to be? And what values and actions are going to enable me to be that person?
Yeah.
And then, you know, I was able to distill the things, my values and a whole bunch of my beliefs into those core principles that I could use going forward.
Yeah.
And that's the way that I did mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And have they evolved over time?
To be honest, since I wrote my creed, not really. No.
Okay.
Because still try to do the right thing. I don't see that ever changing for me. It's really important to me, do the right thing.
Yeah.
And that's one of those values, I guess, that was just I've had in me since I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very fortunate with the family I have, friends that I've had around me, and the influences that I've had, that for the most part, they've taught me to do the right thing. Like, that was a very doing the right thing and doing your best to be a good person the best way you could was like just something that was highlighted in my family, not through being told. I was never like, my parents were like, you got to be a good person, you got to be a good person. It's just, I always saw like my dad and my mom do the right thing. You know, we lived with my grandparents. They always did the right thing, man. Like, they never intentionally hurt someone. They never tried to get something for themselves, like and harming someone else in the process.
Yep.
Like, those opportunities come up for people all the time, and I just never saw them take them. And then there were times where overtly, my parents were like, when this happens, you do this, which was the right thing to do in that situation. And that's what I learned. And I saw that when you did that, life was good. That's it. And when I got older and I saw people doing things that were the wrong thing, which were just clearly the wrong thing, I saw how shit turned out for them. Yeah. And it was shit. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to feel like that. And I don't want people to, I don't want to be received in that way by people. I don't want to be that shit part of their life or have brought any shit upon them. Like, I just don't want to do that. Yeah. So, like, I'd witnessed doing the right thing for a large portion of my life. And then for, you know, later in life, I saw the wrong thing a lot as well. And you see it like when you're a kid as well. I'm not saying that you never saw the wrong thing or had the opportunity to, and that I've never done the wrong thing. I'm not saying that either, that I'm like some righteous soldier who always knows what's right and does what's right. Not at all. I'm sure I do plenty of things that are wrong all the time still, but like not consciously. I can say that with confidence. Like, I always try to do the right thing, man. Yeah. And also it's really important for my own conscious, so like not conscious, sorry, my own conscience. Yeah. And my integrity and how I view myself. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Because like when you do the wrong thing, you feel like shit because you should. Like,
because it sits with you. Yeah.
Yeah, and it sits with you, and that's why you feel crappy about it. Yeah. And I don't want to feel like that. Yeah. And part of maintaining my integrity is doing the right thing. And more than anything, my integrity with myself is super important because it's how I identify with myself, right? So I choose to do the right thing. Yeah. Yeah, cool. So it's self-serving as well. I don't act like I'm some like, you know, benevolent dude walking through earth just blessing people and doing the right thing. Yeah. Like, it's not about that per se. Yeah. Right? Great if that's a flow on effect.
But it does as well. That's the thing. Like, and I think it is completely and absolutely okay for us to see it in that way as well, and be a little bit, like, not even a little bit, just simply unapologetic about,
100%.
that.
It should serve you.
Correct.
Like, this is your experience here.
Yeah.
Like, it's your life.
Because the thing is, like, people tend to forget that whatever serves you for the better is going to permeate out to whoever else you interact with in the world as well.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So selfishness in that regard really isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
Or it shouldn't be seen as negative.
Totally.
It's this whole, like, we could dress it up with, like, the buzzword of the current times, which is self-love or self-care.
Yeah.
Same sort of concept, right? That's, in a nutshell, the same thing. It just sounds more hippy-dippy and cool and, like, buzzy, and it's okay to say now. Like,
yes. But there's also practicality to it.
Yeah, for sure.
For
absolutely.
everyone at large, right? The example that people use all the time is the oxygen mask on the plane.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, and if you've ever been on a plane, you've been through the drill. If an oxygen mask drops from the top, put on yours first, and then attend to anyone who's with you, like a child or someone elderly.
Yeah.
And that's for the simple fact that if you don't take care of yourself, you're not able to help anyone else.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. It's very simple, very practical.
So there's a super practical component to taking care of yourself and being the person you want to be and being comfortable with that, because only then can you help other people. Only then can you do anything for others. Because if you feel like shit and you're not helping yourself, you're sure as shit not going to be able to help anyone else.
Totally.
You're not.
Totally.
So it's important to serve yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Essentially, selfish has a bad connotation.
It does.
So maybe if that's how you feel about the word selfish, change it to self-service.
Yeah.
And serve yourself.
Yeah.
Everybody is so big these days about, like, being of service.
Yeah.
And I'm going to serve people. It's like, serve yourself, man, too. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And you should be doing that.
And it should be the first person you're serving
100%.
yourself,
If for no other reason than, like, if you don't, you're actually not going to be able to serve anyone else in any way.
Yeah. I mean, I always say, like, if you're not your own first priority, then who else is going to put you up there?
Yeah.
Because no one else is going to hold you higher than themselves. Whether they say it or not, right? It's just not the case. It's not real life.
No, it's not.
So.
And there's also this case I see a lot of, like, people being martyrs. Like this martyrdom of, I'm going to sacrifice myself for the good of other people. And all I say to that is, like, you're doing that for yourself too.
Yeah.
All right. Like, people that do that, and they run themselves in the ground taking care of other people, it's because how you want to be viewed as that person.
Correct.
Right? No one's saying it to you, but that's the fact.
Yeah.
And maybe it's worth thinking about it in another way, which is, if you actually took care of yourself, you're still able to take care of other people.
Yeah.
And you're actually going to be able to take care of them better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And, like, there is no nobility in running yourself into the ground to be seen as someone who's doing good.
Because the thing is, behind that example, the intention is not necessarily to help.
Correct.
The intention is to be seen like you're one that
Bingo.
helps others.
Yeah.
So you're doing it for the wrong reasons again. Like, you're not actually wanting to help people. You just want to be seen as the guy that helps people. So,
And that might, or maybe even if you don't see it as that way, right? If that's not apparent to you, like, you're doing things to be seen in a certain way and you're not conscious of it. That's why it's also important to actually think about why you're doing the things you're doing and what's important to you. Right? Taking that time to work that shit out. Yeah. And then also taking the time to understand that if you operated differently, maybe you'd be able to deliver on the things you want and be a better person for people. Totally. And then have a much better effect. And you'll still get what you want, which is to be seen as that person.
Yeah.
Like, it's win-win.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. I think that dynamic's pretty interesting, that I've seen more and more, like, as we've gotten older.
Yeah.
Which is people that, like, quote unquote, just always have a hard time. They're always like, oh, nothing goes right for me. They feel, or they put out this thing that, like, they've always got to take on the responsibility for things. And I'm like, you're putting that shit on yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
I'm not saying you're not helping people. I'm not saying you're not doing anything that's beneficial. I'm just saying that like your approach to it might not be the best.
Yeah.
And that there is a better way.
Yeah.
Just frankly, there is a better way.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah. So how about you, mate? Have you thought about your own creed lately?
I haven't actually. So, given that each time we talk about a topic, it's a surprise. It sprung this one on me, and I have to be honest. I don't remember the first one that I wrote word for word, but I do. What I do know of it, and I do remember of it, is it is quite similar to yours in aspects. And what I can recall from it is there was aspects about perseverance and persistence and doing the right thing, surrounding integrity and creating balance in my life. But the point I'm trying to make is it was quite lengthy when I first created mine.
Yeah.
And I think there were, I guess, quite early on when I did that. I think it must have been at least 4 or 5 years ago. And I think that it was the beginning, or maybe 1 year or 2 years into my personal journey of growth and going down this route. And I was encompassing all the things that I wanted to do, the behaviors that I wanted to exhibit, so that I could further myself down this road and continue on that road, basically. Right. And over time, I refined that. So the next iteration was much smaller. And I think it sort of just said, do the right thing all the time.
Okay.
And that was it, right? All the time. And I think that in that refinement, it was an encompassment of everything without having to spell it out,
Yeah.
All those different elements.
Because you knew what the right thing was for you.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So after that, now it is something different again. It's just 3 words now. And it's like you, I've got it on my phone screensaver, and it's just more and less. That is my overarching principle of behavior and acting and value of life right now. And that's something that came probably 6 months ago, that it came into clarity for me. And again, those 3 simple words, that in itself is a reflection of the principle and what it encompasses and what it means. And for me, that embodies everything that I want to do in life and how I want to view it, is that it's all about taking a step back from everything, being acutely present in every single moment, seeing the depth and experiencing the depth of every single experience that I have in life and situation in life, and not skimming over the surface, being able to see the richness of color in everything in life, and not just seeing grays and blacks and whites and just a blur go past me. Because you see a lot of people, you hear this quite often with people, is that, oh, it's already, March, it's already 2020. Where did the time go? All that sort of thing. And when I look back, I also feel the same way, because, if I'm not acutely present and living and experiencing the depth of every moment of my life, it can very easily just fly by, and it's just all a blur. And I just don't know what happened and what it was all for. It seems meaningless that we're just existing, skirting over the surface of life and not really stopping to smell the roses, as they say. I guess that is a part of it. And the more and less philosophy is in itself a practice, because it's not easy to uphold or exhibit at every single moment. It requires a great deal of focus.
Yes.
But it also tells us that there is beauty and leisure and a great harmony of everything, you know, whether it's work or play or a bit of both.
Yep.
That is, you know, molded in to this big fucking puddle of goo that we call life, or living or experience or whatever. So it's much deeper than the 3 words that are written, and I feel like I've put it there because for that purpose. It's ambiguous enough because it also is a humble recognition and acknowledgement that I don't know shit, and I'd like to uphold that open-mindedness and curiosity throughout life as well.
Yeah,
you know. So yeah, there's a lot to it, but you know, that's basically what it is.
Cool.
Yeah,
I hadn't heard that yet from you.
Yeah,
and I think what's interesting after hearing you just explain it is that yours has quite a level of ambiguity to it for you, which is what you want it to have.
Correct.
Right? Which is cool because of how I know you choose to live your life. And whereas I realized while listening to yours, I was like, mine's actually quite specific. Mine's like almost a system I've set up for myself to like slot every single thing into.
Yeah.
And I guess when I think about that, for people that are listening, it's kind of like work out what's important to you and how you want to live your life as well.
Totally.
Yeah. Like I have this very specific goals, as you know, in different areas of my life. And I think being systemized and working out ways to categorize things and slot and move forward works well for me.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas for you, you choose to approach life differently in a lot of areas to what I do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So your creed is reflective of that.
Yeah.
And that's important for people, is like work out how you want to roll and then work out your creed based on that.
Totally. Like it wouldn't make sense for anyone to simply copy ours word for word.
No.
Unless of course it is deeply resonating with you when we speak the words, and it elicits the same sort of emotions and feelings that we're describing in you, right?
Yes.
But the point is that it must do that, regardless of whether they're our words or yours.
And also on that is my entire creed, I didn't come up with that by myself in terms of like they weren't all my original thoughts. You might not copy word for word like your creed or my creed, but if there's parts in it that do resonate, like you said, feel free to take those on.
Totally.
But they have to resonate with you, right? Like for me, do the right thing is something that Andy Frisella says all the time, who's someone that I follow and learn from and study. And, he talks about it openly all the time, that it's a guiding principle of his life as well.
Yeah.
And it's do the right thing.
Totally.
So, and when you said that, it did deeply resonate with me. Every time he says it, I'm like, that's it.
And it should deeply resonate with a lot of people, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And that's a great point because, like you said, the first creed that I wrote for myself personally, I took snippets and teachings from other people because they stirred something emotionally in me that made me want to adopt them. But that again, I think for my purpose then, it was a guidance mechanism for me to point me in a certain direction, where I've come to a point where I have simply manifested my own, through the work that I've done, through leveraging other people's, behavior or actions or beliefs or values that resonated with me as well. Yeah. So again, important to have your own, but also if people always quote other people all the time. People from recorded history. You always see quotes and stuff like that, and you'll read it and you go like, oh yeah, that's on the money, 100%. Those are your building blocks. Yeah, man. When you come across stuff, see how it applies to you, and if it actually does resonate with you, and if that's in the direction of where you want to be going. Like I wasn't always in the frame of mind to be learning or earning.
right? But I saw that people who had achieved the things that I want to achieve were doing one of those two things pretty much at all times. Like they were always learning or they were earning to be able to put that towards what was important to them. And I'm like, maybe it's a good idea to take on that mentality and go down that path with your actions.
Totally.
So, but that's because there are things that I do want to achieve. And I saw those people doing those things, and that's where like I borrowed it from. Right. So it's cool to borrow, but you need to make sure it's important to you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, again, these two different creeds that we each hold, it's a really good example of, again, perspective and the way people can think differently and want to look towards different things in life, you know, and it's completely okay. Like that is the whole sort of premise behind, you know, the Hustle and Flow podcast, is that we do come from very different perspectives, but we're able to come and talk about and understand each other, you know, to different degrees, you know, whether we agree, disagree, or impartial, it doesn't really matter, right? It's just about understanding that, again, there's no right or wrong in this process of creating for yourself or understanding for yourself what it is that you want to exude as you, the human being. You know, you don't have to mimic anyone, you know, and it doesn't have to be the same as anyone else's. It can be, it doesn't have to be.
100%. I think that's so important. And I think on that as well, with creeds, it's a really cool way to try and guide yourself into becoming the person you want to be and being the way that you want to be. Right.
For sure.
Like it's a good guide. And that's what I would say as well to people that are thinking about coming up with their own creed, which is, build an element into it, which is aspirational for you, of where you want to be, where you want to get to, or how you want to operate.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Like, you know, mine, like I said, going back to the first creed that I created for myself, that was exactly that. It funneled me into where I am now, to how I think now. And it wasn't clear to me back then, obviously, but I needed that guidance, or those barriers to guide me to understanding deeply what it is that I want to represent in life. And that's all it is, more and less.
For sure. For sure. And I guess there, correct me if I'm wrong, but there'd be times you still get caught up in the detail.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That you don't see more and less.
Yeah, for sure. 100%, man.
And for me, there's times where I'm not learning or earning, where I might have slacked off on something. Right? Or that I am like focused on the negative instead of the blessings around me. And I guess what's important and why I bring that up is you're never going to be able to stick to your creed 100% of the time. Like we're humans, man. It's just not going to happen. But I guess a goal should be to live by it as much as you can. And consciously. Sure. Don't let yourself off the hook either. Don't be like, oh, this is a hard thing to do, or, you know, don't write such a lofty, you know, creed or set of principles for yourself that just like aren't going to happen, man. Right? You have to have a level of practicality and be realistic about things as well. Because otherwise, like, there's no point to doing it.
Totally.
And just for me, when I wrote mine, I was like, what would be my ideal situation? Right? And that's what it is. It's like, it's your ideal. And then you pursue that. But also understand that in that pursuit, it's not going to go perfectly all the time. And that's okay. But it's awesome to have a creed and these principles, or a principle that you live your life by, to be able to come back to.
For sure. Know? And that's the key. And I'll explain the same thing from a more flowy aspect, because that's why we're here. It's like I always explain this to people, you know, with regards to Zen Buddhism and the belief of practice and meditation. And Because the general premise of most Buddhist teachings is to attain a state of enlightenment. But we also know that with Buddhist teaching, we understand when we adopt this way of thinking that it's unattainable. But we also continue to work towards it every single day and get as close as we can in this existence.
Yeah.
And that's all it's about. It's practicing the art of practice, getting better at practicing, but not really getting too tied up on attaining anything per se, anything tangible, but it's just to keep us on this path that we've drawn for ourselves. Just keep walking, you know, left foot, right foot, that's it, you know, and just trust that that is going to yield you exactly who you want to become in the future, you know, because your principles and how you behave and act is going to, you know, reflect in the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
And with that as well, I think there's like this elephant in the room that no one talks about when people are like, it's the journey, not the destination, or that if you're trying to get to something that you know is not actually attainable. I think a lot of people would be like, well, then why would you even try? If you know you're not going to get there, what's the point?
Yeah.
And the point is because in doing that work, in walking that path, in going on that journey, you become someone better.
That's right.
And that's what it's about.
It's
becoming better. It's not getting to that end point. It's about who you become along that journey, who you become in that process, who you become by doing the work, in line with the attainment of that, what may be impossible.
Yeah.
But in getting close to it, right, you just become so much better.
Yeah.
And you're better for it. And everyone else is better for it as well around you.
Sure.
And that's beautiful.
Totally. And it's also like exactly right, man. And it's also just a detachment from whatever it is that you know, picture at the end of the tunnel, you know. It's a clear detachment from that. It's not saying that, you know, just because it's unattainable that we shouldn't bother, but if you do the work and you continue down the road, you're still going to achieve beautiful things.
Yes.
Because you're doing the work, and they may not look exactly the same, but they could be just as good or better.
Yeah.
You know, who knows? But that point is not so much to say that it's unattainable, so let's not bother. It's a detachment from what is at the end, you know, and that's it, you know.
Because we might not get what we want all the time.
Correct.
We don't as people.
That's right.
And as humans. So also having a level of comfortability with that. Also not to let yourself off the hook that it's never going to get there, or you're never going to get there, so you don't put in the effort. It's like you should be aiming for those things. I think it's, you know, an important thing to do in your life.
Totally. It's simply an identification of the path you want to walk.
Yeah.
And the unwavering values and principles that continue to drive you along the path, and that's it. That's all it is. You identify where you want to go and keep walking, and that's all.
And understand that if you keep walking, things are going to get better
because you're moving forward. That's it.
And you'll learn things. And you'll come across things that you may not have come across had you chose not to walk the path.
100%.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Anything else to cover on the topic of creeds?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. I think that's I think that wraps it up nicely. I mean, if anyone has any questions about it, if anyone wants to share their creed or wants to ask us or wants assistance or have any questions about how they should start or anything like that, hey man, just hit us up. Where can they find you, Shaun?
Best place to find me is on Instagram. So my Instagram is Shaun Coop. So SHAUN_COOP. And yeah, man, just send me a message. We can chat there. Easiest place.
Yeah. And for me, you can find me on my website, findingspace.co. On Facebook and Instagram, it's also just findingspace.co. So hit me up, send me an email, send me a message. And yeah, we can chat from there.
And before we head off, guys, as always, we just ask for your help. If you found something of value in here, it helped you, or you think it could help someone else, please do us a solid and just share this with one other person. It's how we grow the podcast. And, you know, we want to get the word out to people on things that could help them. And yeah, I think it's a fair fee. Someone helped you.
Fair fee, man. And
Yeah.
and again, if there's any sort of topics that you guys would like us to cover or talk about, hit us up and let us know. Until next time, guys.
Until next time, thanks.
See ya.